Back from Las Vegas and Big Ten football media days. We got the key takeaways, including optimism from the headband. Plus, we'll hear from Iowa safety, Coen Entringer.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. I've been covering the Hawkeyes for over 20 years on the radio in the state of Iowa, including currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network, stations in Sioux City, Des Moines, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, and the Quad Cities. You can hear me each weekday from noon to 2, talking the world of sports and plenty of Hawkeyes. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We got takeaways, some big ones from Big Ten football media days. We'll talk about the Big Ten as a whole a little bit later on in the show today, where Iowa fits in the picture. We're also going to hear from Koen Entringer, the anticipated starting cash position player for this season. Had an opportunity to talk with him in the media scrum and some good stuff there. We're going to have plenty of that, and we're going to talk about, obviously, the big takeaways from Big Ten media days. Coming up here in the next few days, we will continue to pump out the content as we're going to be bringing you a lot. No, it's Friday, and I know we got the weekend in front of us, but we're going to continue to push out the content. Had an opportunity to hear from Beth Getz, the Iowa athletic director. We'll have that audio and video coming your way later on in the week. We also had Kirk Ferentz, and if you missed it on the live portion of our YouTube feed, you can find it over there. Kirk Ferentz for about a half hour, talking a whole variety of different things, and I'll have that up for you as well. Also had an opportunity to talk to Ethan Herkett and talked a lot about the defensive line. So we're going to have that. Some more audio also from Kirk coming up. So a lot out there. We're going to be pumping out the content. We got you covered as we get back from Big Ten football media days. And I will tell you, very happy to be home and back under my own roof and looking forward to sleeping in my own bed. All right, let's get into it. And major takeaways. And I want to start with Kirk Ferentz. You know, Kirk is interesting. And now, incredibly, 27 years of listening, of reading transcripts of pretty much every one of these, you get to know Kirk pretty well. And you have to dig a little bit deeper, right? You have to try to find out exactly where he's coming from. He was pretty open today. He joined my colleague Lucas Strain during his show on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. And when he did, asked him about Vegas. And that was one of the questions that I had for him, and said, back in college, he played some poker. I mean, how about that? I don't think Kirk was in the poker room at Mandalay Bay, and they made their way back Thursday evening as well, got back, and it wasn't a very long trip to Las Vegas. In fact, Kirk said only the second time he'd been in Vegas. So didn't seem like a Vegas guy and saw that, but I thought that was a fun one. But Kirk was pretty funny today. And if you watch the video, I think you'll see some moments where you can definitely tell that Kirk, one thing he brought up a multitude of different times. Different spots, different times talking with him in different locations. And that's another weird thing about media days is there's a bunch of different places where you get an opportunity to talk with him. Was he kept bringing up a lot of surprises. And it kind of goes to the point, and something I want to dig into maybe a little bit more as we get closer to the season. It deals with the ceiling, the floor and the ceiling of this football team. And, it's something that I see and I look at, and I believe that overall, this football team, we've talked about the ceiling. Can they get to 10-2, right? Can they pull an upset against a Penn State and Oregon? Can they do that? And if Gronowski is the real deal, I think they can get there. However, maybe the floor is lower than it is most years. I mean, we go into almost every season for Iowa football thinking that 7-5 is there. And hearing Kirk today, now he also mentioned he really likes this team. And when Kirk says that, that makes my ears perk up a little bit. When he says that kind of terminology, that he really likes this team. But he talked about the question marks. Now, they have depth in the wide receiver room. But who's the guy that's going to step up? Who are the guys that are going to step up there? The major question at left tackle. Still that defensive backfield. The linebacker crew. And on and on and on. There are a lot of questions with this football team. And when you lose as much experience as they did a year ago, you can definitely understand it. But I sensed optimism from Kirk. I sense that he liked where this team is. and he really likes Mark Gronowski. He was talking about him as a leader. Um, in the past, he's talked about, not microwaving stuff and the way you have to do it. And the terminology that he was using is when we hear some optimism coming out of him from the group. I want to say one other thing, and you're going to hear from Cohen Entringer coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Really impressed by him. His parents were there, which is really cool to see. They had a big smile on their faces. I was sitting over on one of the interview spots with him, and you could see they were beaming and how cool it was. A guy with one career start and shows you, obviously, what kind of person that he is. Herkett and Jones, they're talking about their weddings. That was a part of it. And hearing those guys and kind of what they are and what they're going to be going forward and the leadership that exudes. But great group of guys. At the end, I think it was Herkett that got a question into Kirk and asked him about his birthday coming up on August 1st and what he's going to do. And he said practice. He was excited about practice because in the end, it's Kirk Ferentz. Let's hear from Coen Entringer. A couple minutes with Cohen as we had an opportunity to talk with him. A few other reporters there as well. You'll hear their questions coming in along with mine. I was anticipated starting safety Coen Entringer from Big Ten Football Media Days. We'll do that next as we continue Locked On Hawkeyes. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You've already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups. I love betting golf. I love betting baseball. And an opportunity for you, they got new daily promotions and fun ways for you to bet. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. New to FanDuel? How about this? New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. New customers bet just $5, get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Health issues before you're 100% right now.
Yep.
When was the last time you were 100% at this point in the year?
Yeah, I'd probably just say, probably my sophomore year. Yeah. So it just feels good to just be 100% healthy, and I'm just excited just to just start fall camp happy and healthy.
You got full spring.
Yeah.
Like, how much does that do for you in terms of your development and learning both those spots? Like, how important is that?
Yeah, no, just being able to be in this spring, I think that helped so much. I was able to build some chemistry. I think that was something I missed out on. And you just kind of start to develop that second nature. I think a lot of times people forget, you're out there on the game, you're thinking about third and long, who's in the game a lot of times, and your footwork may slip. And I think last year there was a lot of times my footwork wasn't where it probably needed to be. And I think that's the best part about having a full offseason. You're able to fine tune, look at things you need to improve on. And I'm just fortunate to be able to have a full offseason. I'm excited for this season.
Okay, maybe a couple of positions. I think a lot of people see TJ Hall as CB1, and you've got Deshaun Lee, and you've got Jalen Blunt, and you've got Shaquille Barrows. What's that competition look like? Obviously, I know you guys are doing a ton of on-field work right now. What does that look like from your vantage point?
Yeah, no, I think the competition's amazing. I think that's what you need in a position group if you want to bring out the best. And I think Coach Park, I'm just incredibly blessed to play underneath him, and he's just such a smart man for just bringing in all the help we can get. Shahidi's a great addition. Jay Watt stepped up. Bean, he always makes plays. TJ makes plays. So I'm just excited to take the field. I don't know who it's going to be with, but I know no matter what was out there, we're all just going to be giving 110% effort playing for each other.
There's been a lot of conversation about the defensive backs taking a big step forward in the spring, in the summer. How does that look for the group as a whole? But I guess, how did that happen? Is it just like the fact that you guys have been around for a while and it's starting to click? How was that happening?
Yeah, I think honestly just the chemistry we're building. I think once you start to play with some people for a few years, you start to develop that chemistry. And I think just us hanging out outside the building, playing golf, things like that, kind of just building that true mutual friendship that we have, which I think that just helped propel us on the football field. And so I'm excited for this fall camp. We got at least double the amount of practice we get in spring to continue to build that chemistry before the first game. So I'm excited.
A lot of that conversation has been about TJ specifically. And like you said, you are on official visit with him, so you guys have known each other for a while. In what ways has he taken that lift?
Yeah, TJ, he's just been a guy who just came in every single day, worked hard. In this offseason, me and him, we're getting extra work. All the DBs, just getting an extra work, and just trying to find ways we can fine-tune our skills, and just trying to be iron sharpens iron and trying to push ourselves to be the best football players we can be.
Kirk talked specifically about Jalen doing some hard things on special teams. As just a second-year guy, hasn't even been with the program for, I guess, technically has been with the program for a full year now, but he just kind of seems like a different athlete. He can make a few plays that maybe other people can't. Is that your read of Jalen?
Yeah, Jay Watt, he's a kid from a good family. He's a tough kid. He's really fast. He's definitely athletically gifted. I'm just excited to see just the contributions that Jay Watt makes to the team. Coach Parker, such a great coach. If you're making plays, he's going to find a way to put you out there. And I think I'm just a testament to that. Obviously I probably wasn't good enough to start all the games last year, but I definitely Coach Parker found a way to get me out there and compete. So I'm just grateful.
Coen, can you talk a little bit about the cash position? And it's different. We've seen Phil have a bunch of different type of guys that have played that position, and what you bring to that position. What maybe you're different than Castro and some guys before, and how you see that position different than a regular, if you will, defensive back spot.
Yeah, I think it's just a tremendous opportunity to be able to play that position. You had guys like Castro, Coop played the position, Amani Hooker, just so many different legends. And I just hope I can just pave my own way. I think those guys don't even realize, and I even forgot to shout out, the four before me, Dane Bell, and those guys don't even realize, everybody who's played the cash position before watches guys like Castro, watches guys like Dane, Coop, and just tries to learn their techniques. And you kind of got to put your own little sauce to it. So I'm excited to put my own little flavor on it, and and leave the jersey in a better place.
See, you have your own shoe section right here today. Is that right?
Yeah.
If you're sitting over there.
Yeah.
What do you like to see from the defense this year? A little bit different.
I just think just defensively, I think I can speak for the back end. I think we just got to get better at eliminating explosive plays. I think we're going to have an explosive offense this year. I think we got a great defensive line who works so hard for us, and I'm totally grateful for the big work they put down in the trenches. But it's time for us to return the favor for those D linemen and those linebackers. We got to eliminate the explosive plays. If we eliminate those, I think it'll be a good defense.
How do you like playing for Coach Ferentz?
I think it's just a tremendous honor, just a legendary coach, and I'm just eternally blessed to be a part of that.
I understand you got a camp Saturday again.
Yes.
What got you into that?
I just always just wanted to give back. I just have been just so fortunate to have so many people just pour into my life, and I just hope I can just be that person. With NIL and things like that, I've just been blessed beyond measure, and I think it'll just be behoove of me not to try and give back and impact the community.
What pulled you to Iowa? I mean, you basically live next door to Michigan, right?
Yeah. I think what just pulled me to Iowa was just the people, and I was just fortunate to take a visit with guys like X and TJ Hall, and I think when I just came on that official visit, I met those guys. I met Coach Parker. I met Coach Ferentz, and I was just able to be around the coaching staff, around the facility, and experience the culture. I realized that this is a program I want to be a part of. This is a culture I want to be a part of, and I just said to myself, I can't see myself anywhere else but wearing black and gold.
What kind of offers did you have, and was Michigan interested?
Yeah, no, I had offers from Michigan, Wisconsin, Boston College. I had a decent amount of offers, but when it was all said and done, I just couldn't see myself anywhere else but Iowa.
So we heard in the spring quite a bit that offense was getting you guys a little bit.
Yeah.
What was it? I mean, is it just improved quarterback play? What was it in the spring? Because I've been covering this for a long time, and it's not very often we hear the Iowa offense is getting the defense in the spring.
Yeah, no, I think we had a new offensive coordinator come in. I think that first year is probably hard. Obviously I don't work in that side of the department, but just learning a new system, new terminology. I bet that can be difficult, especially before a fall camp and having to prepare for a season. But I just think, they had that full year under their belt. Some of their bread and butter players are starting to feel like second nature for them. So I'm just excited. We've always had amazing, talented players on offense, and I'm just excited to compete against them every single day.
Heard a little bit about the receivers specifically. Maybe getting the best of the DBs a little bit.
I don't know about that. Yeah, but seriously, we have a great group of receivers who push us to be great every single day, and I'm excited to compete against them every single day. They could probably attest to that. They're excited to go against me.
Who's the wide receiver that gives you the most trouble in practice?
I'm gonna say this to all of them. Message all of them. I say none of them.
All right.
Who's some of the players you watched growing up, or maybe you watch now?
So some players I grew up watching, Tyrann Mathieu, just retired. He was a player I grew up watching. A guy like Brian Dawkins, I've seen some cut-ups of him. And then just an Iowa legend, someone I kind of was introduced when I came, Bob Sanders. That's a guy who's just been a staple, a guy who all safeties is trying to emulate a tough physical guy like Bob Sanders. Yeah.
That group in front of you, that linebacker group, a lot of turnover, obviously. I guess, what do you see from them? Why maybe will that group, or how will that group move forward after losing Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you got to just shout out Coach Wallace. He's probably one of the best linebacker coaches in the nation, and so I'm 100% confident in whoever's out there. And just being a guy who's been out there practicing with them, I'm confident in Carson Shire, I'm confident in Jaden Harrell, I'm confident in Jackson Rethroff, Jada Montgomery, whoever's out there. I'm confident in those linebackers. They work incredibly hard. They practice so hard, and I know that no matter what happens, they're going to just take the field and play with this relentless effort every snap. And when you're playing with guys like that, it's pretty hard to not be successful.
Who on this team are we overlooking right now that maybe media's not talking about?
I think probably, I don't know who it is, but I know there's going to be somebody who's going to step up on special teams this year. And, whether it's a guy like Jalen Watson, a guy like Rashad Godfrey, Cale Clare, whoever it is, someone's going to step up on special teams, and they're going to win us some games this year. And whoever that person is, I just want them to know we're incredibly grateful to have them as a part of our team. So.
Cohen, you're going to see that.
So there's Coen Entringer from Big Ten Football Media Days. As I said, a really engaging, really interesting guy. Very fun hearing him talk about a couple of different players. We'll talk a little bit about more of that. More takeaways from Big Ten Football Media Days as we are back in Iowa, recapping what we saw in Las Vegas. We'll continue Locked On Hawkeyes. Trent Condon back with you one final time. This is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast, your team every day as we gear up for football season. And boy, just being there in Las Vegas for the last couple of days, hearing the coaches, hearing the players from the 18 different universities in the Big Ten Conference, it really got the juices flowing. It did. And the excitement level certainly building up for me as we are just outside now, a month away from the opening of the football season, and it'll open up with that weird game time, the 5 o'clock start against Albany to kick things off. Of course, Iowa State in week number 2, and then UMass before Big Ten play begins with Rutgers and Indiana as they'll get going their first 5 games of the season. As I mentioned at the top, Kirk talked about a lot of the questions that they have, and he's excited to find out. He's excited about this team. He's excited about this group. And, when he talked about some of the different positions, one area that I asked him about, I think is incredibly important, as Kirk likes to go back, and we heard a lot of old stories, with Kirk, and that's what you're going to get from him. And there was the Dallas Clark references and everything else that you get from normal Kirk Ferentz press conference. But, I asked him about the defensive tackle position, and the defensive tackle position specifically going out and bringing in 2 guys in the grad transfer market, and in the transfer market, excuse me. And one's a grad transfer, and Jonah Pace. And he said he'll help. But then he also brought up Bryce Hawthorne. And Hawthorne, 3 years of eligibility remaining, South Dakota State, said he wasn't tall, and that was the knock. He said he made a mistake not offering out of high school. But you can just tell, again, reading between the lines, the response that he has a lot of belief that those guys are going to help. And it said as much that they're going to help. Another one that you can hear is up on the long live portion, the 30 minutes that is up on YouTube, was Kirk talking about Bryce George. And he's kind of the great unknown, right? You got Trevor Lau fighting with Jack Dotzler for that left tackle spot. And during that time, while spring football's happening, they go out and get Bryce George, who hasn't played a ton of left tackle. We already have known that Jennings Dunker just isn't comfortable. He is a right tackle, and that's where he's going to stay this year. So they're still searching. And you bring in Bryce George from Ferris State, but he said all the right things. He was a guy that they were excited about. And Kirk mentioned when they did the background on him, it was a guy that they, had a belief that can be a left tackle. So we'll see. When they get the pads on here this week, it will be different. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's going to be different, and we'll see what he looks like there. But, I went from last week when we were talking about the depth chart. We're not going to get a depth chart for a couple of weeks. And, what's this going to look like? Bryce George is going to be there. Bryce George is going to be on there. And is he going to be the starter at left tackle? I might have a little more credence to that he is going to be that guy. Another thing that Kirk mentioned is they're likely still going to be figuring some guys out in September. And I know specifically with the offensive line, that's something that drives me crazy. Yeah, you want guys competing. You want guys that are working for the job and doing those parts of it. Obviously, that's football, right? You got to have competition, and that's a piece of it. But it makes sense with this many new faces, with this many new guys, coupled with what they did in the portal and bringing in some new faces aboard there, that you're going to be searching. You're going to be digging a little bit deeper, and it's probably going to take longer to get there. Got to be ready to go week 2. We know that. But the way the schedule lays out too, I mean, there is a little more ability for them to tinker a little bit more here during the early portion of the schedule and that piece of it. Again, we'll get more coming your way here in the next couple of days into next week as we will continue to react. There's just so much to bring to you. Your team every day. We got you covered. You everydayers. Thanks for being with us each and every day. Big shout out to all of you out there for doing that. We will be back with you. We got more content coming up this weekend into next week. A lot from Big Ten Football Media Days. We'll hear from Ethan Herkett. We'll hear more from Kirk Ferentz. We'll hear from Beth Getz. Got a lot of video and audio that we will be sharing with you. If you're saying video, yeah, you can watch us on YouTube each and every day if you want to see my mug, or you can listen on the podcast side. If you're listening, 5-star reviews, need more of those to help us out and get us in front of more Hawkeye fans. If you're watching on YouTube, just hit that subscribe button. Just takes a moment. It does really help us out. Back with you again tomorrow with more from Big Ten Football Media Days. Thanks for joining us as always. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.